Hi there, Jeff here. Another video in my series about, I think this would mean the language and linguistics series. Um, Maybe the word share tips of the day. I'm answering a question or kind of a comment on link. Actually, it came up to be a question about switching from a non-native accent to a native sounding accent. And I can't remember. From my recall, as an Australian, I can't remember. Sorry, name. I have to look it up when I finally post this thing, right? Um, but this is really interesting because of kind of the anecdotes that were said in that post were about people with thick accents, right? That they would and that you could actually tell that they were from a certain place, and and there have been other posts over the past few months about accent reduction. I know people that work in accent reduction. They do actually accent reduction training. In fact, there was one person that was at my Microsoft lecture, my Microsoft research lecture back in 2010 at Microsoft headquarters. And when I was asking the people in the audience what they did, and one person, I think it was Louise, said that she specifically she worked in language teaching and accent reduction coaching. And so that was back 12 years ago, right? Uh, the and then there's been recently some stuff about software that can actually do accent changing. So this gets really in. So we can actually change the accent of people in call centers, so they don't sound like they're from a country that is a low-cost country, right? So there's a whole bunch of ethical stuff in this, right? That gets really, uh, if people can change their accent, they want to change their accent, they'll do it, right? But if you get software to do it for you, then you're cheating, right? Because you're making it sound like they're people that they're not. Which I don't know the answer to this, right? I don't know the answer to this. I think it's a question that is delicate. I'm bringing it up. I'm not saying I have the answer for it because I'm thinking about it too, right? I'm brainstorming about this topic as it's going on and kind of behind the scenes and seeing all the posts about this. But as this comes back to this topic about switching from a non-native accent to a native accent, and I got to be careful with the word native, right? Because this is the word native is kind of being challenged now with all diversity, inclusion, and inclusive language, and I don't know what to call this because we say native language or we say mother tongue, right, or mother tongue. I mean, these things we say. So maybe we need to come up with the language. We need some kind of short thing for the language you kind of grew up with, right? In your home country, whatever that may be. So, and I'll come from my point of view of having. I came to France when I was 23 years old. I already had a bachelor's degree in French. I already spoke French pretty well, quite well. I had done a bachelor's degree in 1 year, so I did a really fast track that, and I actually listened to a lot of French cassettes and stuff while I was working doing janitorial work. So I was listening to it all day while I was working. I was seriously just listening to it a lot, and then I was practicing at school all day long for 8 hours a day. And I actually took an immersion course too for a month. So I lived in it for 24 hours a day before leaving before coming to France, and then and just literally had a couple of intensive years before coming to France. And it's almost immersion, right? Immersion for a month and almost immersion because when you're doing 8 hours a day, you're doing just French. I mean, at the university, that's almost immersion, right? So and then came to France, and then was in immersion for I've been in immersion for 33 years. Let's say it that way, because I've spoken French in all the places I lived, and my family for during my whole married life, and with my children, I always spoke to children in English, but French was always the language of the home, right? So I've kind of dealt with this, and I've worked the majority of my career, let's say half of my university studies were at French institutions, and the majority of my career has been at French companies, right? But I speak English, right, a lot, because English is what is my meal ticket. Let's say it that way. But that's what allows me to work on international projects. But I speak usually French every day too, right? To colleagues that are not working on my projects. So I've dealt with this. I mean, it's really funny that my accent's kind of gone up and down, right? Depending on how much I happen to speak in it. Because I remember coming to France and I was trying to focus on being integrated so much that, I probably lost my accent to a certain point, right? And I'm a phonetician, so articulatory phonetics is something I specialized in, right? And so this is, I know how to lose my accent, but I just finally at a certain point decided it wasn't worth it to focus on too much. And the fact too is I speak in English a lot for my job, because that's what my fact that I'm a native speaker allows me to be able to work in projects that a lot of French speakers can't, because they're just not good at English, right? So I have the advantage of that.